Hi and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Flo and today's video is a really exciting holiday Christmas reading vlog. So I have been fully getting into the Christmas spirit recently. I have my Rudolph socks on, I've got a snuggly jumper on which my sister bought me, which was really cute, and I've got the fire on because I'm at my parents' house. I'm normally like, at the moment, every time I read in the evening, I've been putting like one of the YouTube aesthetic fires on to get into like a cozy spirit. So it's really nice to have a real fire, although it's pretty warm. So hopefully I don't melt during this video, but I thought it would be nice to do like a dedicated Christmas reading vlog. And I have been sent 2 books, which I did say I wanted to do in my November TBR, and I know that it's December now and I still haven't read them. But these are the books that I want to read in this reading vlog. So to go through them one by one and like set out what this video. Both of these books were sent to me by HarperCollins really nicely, and they also gifted me another book, but I've already read that one. So I thought this reading vlog, normally in all of my past reading vlogs, I've been reading between like 3 to 5 books, and because I work full time, I'm trying to write a novel, I cheerlead, I do all of these other things, and I also try and see my friends from time to time. It means that it takes me ages to do the vlog. So I thought, let's just pick 2 really great cozy Christmas books that I don't really know much about, and then I can give you my full thoughts on them. But to introduce the books to you, so I showed you them, I think I'm gonna do 1 book on audiobook and then read 1 in paperback. And I looked at all of the apps I use. So I use Libby, Audible and Scribed, and I try, obviously I've only got 1 Audible credit left, so I don't want to use a credit for this because I really want to read the last book in the Chestnut Springs series, and so I'm saving my Audible credit for that when I get round to it. So I had a look on Libby and I had a look on Scribed, and Upon a Frosted Star is available with my Scribed subscription. So I've saved that, and I think I will listen to this book as an audiobook. I did really want to read it in paperback because it's so floppy and big, but alas, I couldn't get the other book in audiobook unless I used a credit. So I'm going to read that one in paperback. But to introduce this book to you, I don't know much about it. I just got sent it as an ARC copy from HarperCollins, which is super nice. I've never had an ARC copy before, so it was really exciting. But the reason I thought it would be really good in this vlog, because it says, the invitations always arrive the same way, without warning, appearing around the city on the first snowfall of the year, simply inscribed with tonight. When struggling artist Forster finds an invitation, he's bewitched by the magic of the evening, swept up in the glamour of this notorious annual party and intrigued as to who is behind them. Determined to find out more about the mysterious host, Forster discovers an abandoned manor house silent with secrets and a cursed woman who is desperate to be free. I don't even know the story of Swan Lake, so I don't know what this like plot is about, or like, I have no idea. So I think this is a great one to read, and I think it's a little bit different because I normally read contemporary romance, or I've been reading a little bit of fantasy, but I haven't really heard many people talk about this book. But also, I don't know anything about, like I said, Swan Lake. I don't know anything about this author. I feel like this will be a really great one to read and vlog. Honestly, despite the fact that we're getting into the Christmas feels, I feel like I'm melting with this fire. I think a YouTube fire is actually so much easier because you're not literally melting from the actual heat of a fire. But anyway, it's cute, the vibes are here. But the next book that I want to read, and I'm gonna read it in paperback because I don't want to spend an Audible credit, is A Holly Jolly Ever After. I'm more familiar with this book because I'm more familiar with the authors Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone. I've read Sierra Simone's standalone books before, and I can't remember if I've read any standalone Julie Murphy. Maybe I have, I don't know. But either way, I see these authors a lot more on like the book talk side of things, and like social media, they're pretty well hyped, and this series is pretty well hyped. I believe it's a series. So the first book that HarperCollins also sent me, but I did read it last year, it's called A Merry Little Meet Cute, and it was co-written by both of these authors. And I want to say it was the first Christmas book in this series, but again, I really don't know if it was a series. But A Merry Little Meet Cute, I only rated it 3 stars, and I listened to it on audiobook, and I read it last year in the like Christmas vibes. But it followed a main character I can't remember her name. I want to say it's like Brie or something, but she is like an adult film worker, if you know what I mean. And it follows how she used to work in like the adult film industry, and she's like has a huge social media-y like famous presence in that world, but she ends up accidentally being recruited for like a family, kind of like a Hallmarky Christmas movie. And I'm surprised I can remember so much about this plot, given that I only rated it 3 stars. I normally forget the plot, but this has really stuck with me, which makes me think maybe I enjoyed it more than I initially thought. But she ends up coming to this like town called Christmas Notch, is that the town's name? Anyway, goes to this small like film setty Christmas town where they're filming this family Christmas movie with her co-star Nolan Shaw, and he is like an ex-boy band member, so like think One Direction-y type vibes. They end up falling in love, but she's got to keep her identity as like an adult worker a secret, but they end up falling in love. And it's a very like funny, steamy type book, and I guess this one follows on from it, but it's different characters, and I haven't actually looked at the blurb, so I will read it out now. But it says, opposites attract in a spicy holiday rom-com. When actress Winnie Baker agrees to star in a steamier than steaming mug of mulled wine Christmas movie, she has just one concern. How can she be sultry on screen when she's never been sultry in real life? Callum Lieberman is an ex-boy band member. Oh, is he from Nolan's old band? Thanks to a rogue member now known exclusively for his reputation in the bedroom thanks to a rogue sex tape. And he's got just the experience she needs. But Winnie and Callum need to keep this research purely professional. They say opposites attract, and that makes this co-stars with benefits setup extremely dangerous indeed. So this kind of feels like the opposite of what the first book was like, but keeping into the theme of adult movies meet wholesome Christmas vibes. So I'm excited to get to this one. And like I said, I'm gonna read this one, listen to this one on audiobook. This one seems a lot more serious mystery vibes, and then this seems a bit more like jokey, steamy rom-com-y. So I think they're 2 very different books to include in this vlog, and I'm really excited to get to them. As ever, I will always keep you updated as to how I get on with both of them, and I'll let you know my thoughts as we go along. I have a mini update. Also ignore the plaster on my nose. I had a mole removed, nothing to worry about, but I have to wear this while like it heals, which is very distracting, I know. But anyway, I have been listening to Upon a Frosted Star on audiobook. I listened to it on Scribed, which is now called Everand, I believe. So I haven't used a credit, which I'm glad about because I'm not enjoying it. I have only read 10 chapters and I'm contemplating DNFing it, but I know I'm not far enough in the book to do it yet. When I say 10 chapters, it sounds like a lot, but it's honestly only 58 pages. The chapters are super short, so I think I need to give it another 10 chapters, which will get me to 100 pages before I fully decide to DNF it. I don't know the story of Swan Lake, so maybe that's not helping me, and the language feels very like classic novel vibes, but I think it's because it's very like world building. I actually couldn't tell you anything about what I've read other than it's something to do with partying. That's it. And they talk about some kind of like drugs in the bathroom. Like that's all I could tell you. And the fact that that's the only thing I remember is pretty bad. I will keep going with it though. I will listen to a little bit more like when I'm pottering around the house or walking the dog, but the fact that I've been reverting to music instead of given, like if I have an opportunity to listen to this book, I won't, I'll pick music instead. I feel like that's a bit telling as to my enjoyment. I really wanted it to get me into the winter feels, considering it's got like a snowy setting and everything like that, but it's really not doing that for me at the moment. But I have read some really amazing books recently where I wasn't into like the first half an hour of the audiobook, and then I gave it a little bit longer and I loved it. So maybe that's what's going to happen here. I don't know. It's nothing like I've ever read before. I don't know. Maybe it's just too different for me to fully love it, but we'll see. I'll keep reading it over the next couple of days. Probably by tomorrow I'll decide whether I'm DNFing it or not. Fingers crossed I get into it. so to provide an update, I have officially finished Upon a Frosted Star. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it more than I thought, and I understood what was happening. I know when I last recorded something, I was like, I have no idea what's happening, I might DNF it, but I ended up understanding it. It basically follows a guy called Forster, and he's trying to uncover the mystery that is Detta. And so she is a prima ballerina, but the world believes that she died when she was on the Titanic. But even though society think that she has died, she sort of, I guess she's in hiding maybe, I don't know. She's not in like strict hiding, but she's away from society, so people don't connect the dots that she didn't die in the Titanic. At the first snowfall of every year, she throws these parties, but nobody knows she is the one that is the organizer behind them, but she does perform a ballet at these parties every year. Forster, the main character, like the guy, he ends up going to these parties and he uncovers the mystery that she is the one that throws these parties, and they end up falling in love. However, I guess where it becomes sort of Swan Lake-esque is that every time the snow melts, she turns into a swan, and so it's like how they're falling in love, but they only get like a certain short amount of time every single year to be together, and he wants to break this curse. So Forster is trying, while there's sun out and there's no snow and she's not around, he's working his hardest to uncover and figure out how she ended up having this curse. Yeah, it was nice because it was very like winter feels and lots of snow obviously, and like party season and everything, so it was kind of nice doing that. But I don't love like historically fiction type books. I tend to stay away from books set too early on, I guess. I just prefer really like contemporary romance, although reading more fantasy recently has really opened my eyes up to that I do need to broaden my horizons with books. And I did recently read Millie Bobby Brown's historical fiction and I enjoyed it, so I'm still glad I read it. It was really enjoyable. I'm glad I did it in audiobook because I think it would have taken me too long to get through it if I'd read it in paperback, considering how much I was reserved at the beginning and how slow it took me. Like I started enjoying it about 50% of the way through this book. So yeah, 2 out of 5 stars. And then as an update, I have also been reading Holly Jolly Ever After. Please ignore the fact that I've ruined this book. I put it against some food and now the paperback is ruined. I'm 50% of the way through almost. And it's kind of in the same enjoyable sort of setting and scene as the other book, A Merry Little Meet Cute, and the characters overlap and it's really fun, it's lighthearted. But I don't feel that Christmassy, even though it's like fully set in a Christmas town. I'm not feeling fully Christmassy, but I do love the characters and I am giggling. Like there are so many nostalgic mentions of things in this book that make you giggle and just bring back like fond memories of things. And they talk about anecdotal things or like films or mentions of other celebrities and things, and you're like, oh, that feels quite nostalgic, it's quite funny. There are so many like comical references in this book, so I'll be like sat on the tube reading it and giggling. So it is good, I'm really enjoying it. I wouldn't say it gives me like this overwhelming obsessive feeling as like my 5-star or even maybe my 4-star reads do, but I would definitely say it's higher than 3, maybe not quite 4, so maybe 3.5, 3.75, but we'll see. I'll give you a full breakdown of my thoughts when I get to the end of this book, but so far I am really enjoying it. And I know that Christmas books and things are supposed to be really cheesy and corny, and it's giving that. It's giving like spicy Hallmark movie, I would say. Update time. I haven't got that much further than I think since I last gave you an update, but I'm hoping, I just hit myself in the face with the book. I'm hoping that this weekend, it's Saturday now, I can get through a lot of this. I'm past part 2 and I think part 2 is actually better than part 1. I have been reading this a lot slower than I thought I would, but I think it's just because I'm not into like the rom-com genre, like reading it in paperback. I love listening to the audiobook versions of them. So I think that's what it is. Naturally, I would have normally done this on audiobook, but I did the other book on audiobook. I am liking it and it's getting me in the Christmas spirit. I feel more Christmassy as I picked this up, and I had like a Starbucks earlier, like a Christmas gingerbread latte as I was reading this, and it was just perfect. So yeah, I think it's super enjoyable and I'm really loving it. Some of the tropes that are in it are not my favorite, and I'm not going to spoil it, but the trope near the end of the book, it's not a big favorite for everybody. I can't remember if I've already given an update as to like what this book is about. I'll give you the general gist now. I know I've said it before, but it does follow on, it's like a standalone, but it sits in a series. Is there like a term for that? I'm not sure, but anyway, there's a book before this called Merry Little Meet Cute, as I mentioned, and you do see the two characters from that book in this book, which is really nice, but it follows Winnie Baker and Callum Lieberman. So Winnie Baker was like a good girl Christian, grown up in quite like a religious family, and thought sex before marriage was a sin, and she ends up marrying her like childhood sweetheart, but then they were kind of almost forced together as a couple. They grew up on movie sets, so she was a child actress with this guy on the same TV series. She ends up getting a divorce from him like 15 years later because he cheated on her, but in the news he's like, she cheated on me. So everybody thinks that this like Winnie Baker's turned bad kind of thing, and she gets loads of bad press of being no longer a role model and things like that. So then her manager is like, well, let's turn that narrative around. Let's put you in like a spicy Christmas film and show everyone the new Winnie Baker. And so she's paired with Callum Lieberman, and he was also a member of Inc. like Nolan in the first book, and he is now owning like a pizza parlor, and he wants to revamp his image because there was like a leaked sex tape that came out of him, and so he's like leaning into that narrative as well by doing this spicy Christmas film, and it's basically like a Santa finding his Mrs. Claus type thing. So they go to Christmas Notch to film it. It's in Vermont, so like it's super Christmassy town. And Winnie, because she's a good girl and she's never had an orgasm before, she basically leans into Callum to be like, hey, can you help a girl out? And because she's struggling with like acting in the sex scenes. So that's kind of where it goes. And then obviously they like go from casually hooking up to falling for each other. I'm in like the almost third act breakup-y type vibe-esque at this point in the book, so I will see how it pans out. I think I know where it's going, but that's the beautiful thing about like Christmas books, is that they're cheesy, they're predictable, they're funny, and that's exactly what this is. So if you want a Christmas book to give all of those like hallmark Christmassy vibes but with like a funny and spicy twist, this is the book for you. I am really enjoying it. It's hard to rate it against other books that I read because it is so different, and I don't really love rom-coms, so I don't normally rate them that high. I think I've mentioned this before, and I've said I think it's between a 3 and a 4, so I'm still standing with that. I will keep reading now and let you know when I finish this book and my overall thoughts and whether it got me in the Christmas spirit, because so far it has every time I read it, especially when I get a nice Christmas drink to have with it as well. So I'm a bit annoyed because I think there's a miscommunication trope tied in with one of the worst tropes possible as well. But I'm not going to say that trope because otherwise it spoils it. But they've just ruined part 2, which is so annoying. But I should finish this on a positive note and say that I hope that it's not as bad miscommunication as what I think. And I hope it's not predictable, because I've been loving it so far. So I don't want the ending to leave me annoyed. So as an update, I have finished this book. I should also say, to start with, ignore the state of me. I have had the day from hell. I woke up this morning and my flat was flooded. So the chaos behind me is like me having to move everything from my kitchen drawers. It's not been a fun day. So I've not been able to like provide this update sooner, but I've survived it. I ordered a pizza, but yeah, that's why I look a mess. Also, my skin has broken out because of winter, so you know, the vibes are off today, but what better way to cheer me up than to talk about books? So I finished this book and I don't really have much to add beyond like what I've already mentioned. I still feel exactly the same, 3.5 to 3.75 stars. Really enjoyed it, rom-com-y. The ending just dragged on. They didn't need to drag it on for as long as they did, and I just found like the couple near the end were very on again, off again, and it was just a bit, let's wrap this up now, we're done. But I loved how cheesy it was, because obviously like Christmas books are supposed to be like Christmas films where they're cheesy, they're full of gooey emotions. But it's weird because this one wasn't fully set in Christmas the whole time. Like they were in Christmas Notch, which is like cold all year round because it's Vermont, but at least I think it was. But then at the end of the book they were back in LA and it was summery, so that kind of kept dragging me out of the Christmas feels. But I really did enjoy it and it was good. It's weird, like compared to movies, I would say both of these books, even though they mentioned winter and snow and everything, I would say that you don't get that Christmassy feel reading Christmas books in the same way as you would a movie. But I think maybe it's because the movie's more visual and you have like music as well. Like for me, I think Christmas music really gets me in the Christmas spirit, whereas yeah, I felt Christmassy in some parts when they mentioned things, but a lot less of that festive feeling than movies, I would say. It's funny because normally books are always so much more superior to movies in every sense, but just when you want the Christmassy feel, I don't think that you get it as much in a book as you do a movie. Weird, I know, but really enjoyed it. I would say much preferred this one to this book. I think I ended up, was it 2 stars for this book and then 3.5 to 3.75 for this book. So an average reading experience, nothing blew me away. Got me into the festive spirit a little bit. As we kind of get more into December, I'm excited to go back to my parents, put their Christmas decorations up and fully embrace the Christmas spirits. This was a great start. So I'm really happy that I did do this challenge, and I'm happy that I did pick up these books to help me get into the Christmas spirit. So if you have any other festive books that you can suggest, I know we're getting closer to Christmas now, but I do love an audiobook as well and I read them so quickly, so when I do it that way. So if you have any books that you could recommend to get me more into the Christmas spirit, maybe I just picked the wrong ones and there are some books that really help me embrace it in the same way as a movie, let me know in the comments. But thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video.